Alrighty, hey, how's everybody doing? This is Christian American Magazine. I'm your host, Sherman Ray, and I want to welcome you all to the broadcast today. Folks, we got something for you today. It's our third broadcast, and we already got fireworks. I mean, not just a little bit of fireworks, but a lot of fireworks, so we can't wait to get the show started today. For those of you that this might be your first time checking out the show, go ahead and write to us. Go ahead and hit this subscribe button. It's down here someplace. Hit the subscribe button. And I would love for you to subscribe to our channel. And whenever we do these shows, you get updated on some of the cool things that are going on in the broadcast. Also, if you're watching us on Godstream.org, thank you so much for watching us on Godstream.org. And it's a wonderful platform. We'll be adding a new show. We got actually two new shows that are going to be adding onto Godstream.org. So very excited about that also. And so what's the show all about? The show is really all about Christians getting involved in the political process. I know a lot of you think that, why should Christians get involved at all? We're all going to heaven. That's it. We're done. Said, yeah, well, that's true. But while we're here, we need to have an effect. We need to have an influence on the culture. So we're not just here to, just to kind of... like sit around like angels on clouds. We're actually here to do stuff. So while we're here, we're going to be just like Joseph was. We're going to be just like Daniel was. All of the prophets of old who were part of the founding of Israel and the influence in the culture. That's what we're here to do. We're here to influence culture, and we're going to highlight Christians who are out there. And so it's very important that you get a part of this. If you'd like to write to us, go ahead and write to us at ChristianAmericanMagazine@gmail.com. That's ChristianAmericanMagazine@gmail.com. And we would love for you to be a part of the broadcast. Give us some ideas or leave a comment down the bottom. So in just a couple of minutes, guys, we've got a story that I don't know why it has not just reverberated throughout the world, but it's probably one of the most important stories of our lifetimes. Not just an important story, folks, but probably one of the most important stories politically, American politics-wise, is probably going to be, nothing's going to even come close to this, you guys. I mean, nothing. So we've got a video that we're going to show you in just a couple of minutes. It is something that I cannot imagine why it's not on all the news shows. If you've been following us on our social media platforms, you've already started to see it. We posted something about it yesterday. And you guys you got to stick around for this. I mean, just stick around. It'll be just a couple minutes. We'll get this going. And we want to do it because it's quite extensive. It's quite long. But it will be worth your time watching it. So be sure to stick around for just a minute. Let's talk a little bit about the election that's coming up right now. Elections right now in many, many locales. Early voting has already started for the presidential election. I know here in our home state of Nevada that it's already started here also. And so we encourage you to get out there and vote. Get out there and vote. They say that 20% of Christians, only 20% of Christians even vote. Wow. We really got to get up on this, guys. I mean, it's not even like a little bit. We got to get going on this, period. Because I can't imagine us expecting us to change the world for Jesus Christ when we don't even vote. So Christians, you got to get out there and vote. Vote the Bible. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but if they are not pro-life, then you shouldn't vote for them. I'm going to put it that way right now. If they are not pro-life, don't even consider them. Okay, because if no other reason, be a pro-life Christian who votes the Bible. Okay. So many locales are out there right now. Georgia is reporting record voting. Florida is record voting. Here in our own state of Nevada, we're going to probably have the same thing. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be simply amazing. Many of you probably know that Barack Obama has been on the campaign trail for Kamala Harris, and they're trying to court the black vote. This is interesting. I mean, this is not just a little bit. Barack Obama, many of you know he was the 44th president of the United States. That he won back-to-back elections, and it was mostly because of the black vote. I'm gonna say it the way it is. It's mostly because of the black vote. And when blacks came out in numbers, 95% of blacks voted for Barack Hussein Obama. So now they're noticing that the same excitement level that was for Barack Obama, not so much for Kamala Harris. And so Barack Obama was enlisted, his help was enlisted, because they really couldn't pull Joe Biden out. Joe Biden is, just kind of not he's a shell of the man he is. And besides that, he's upset. He's upset that Kamala Harris was part of a coup that took away the nomination for him to be the president of the United States and put it in her hands. They forced him out. It was a voluntary coup. They said to him, Joe, do it the easy way or do it the hard way, but you are leaving. And so Joe Biden withdrew his nomination. Kamala Harris was installed as the presidential nominee, not having won one primary, not having one time ever standing up in front of a crowd saying, vote for me as president. She was a part of the ticket for the Biden-Harris thing, but she was not the primary person. So they're finding out that black men in particular are not as excited about Kamala Harris as black women are. No, not just a little bit, but a lot. I mean, black men are basically saying, no, I don't think so. She's not the one. She's just not. And maybe they're seeing something in her that they don't like. They just don't like her particularly. I know that they're saying that she's going to be the first black president. We're going to talk about that in just a second, so don't jump the gun. But whatever it might be, they are not going for it. So they sent Barack Obama out there to do something for Kamala Harris. And so they're trying to get the black male vote out of her. And so here's one of the things that they did, and I'm just kind of I'm a little upset about this, to tell you the truth. I'm infuriated by this. No, I'm offended by this. As an African American male, the things that Kamala Harris is saying that she's going to do for the black vote. Yeah. So one of the things she's going to do is put a set aside there, a government set aside for black voters who are black people who want to start businesses. I think it's $25,000 forgivable loans up to a certain dollar amount. Okay. But another thing she said, hey, guess what we're going to do? We're also going to have marijuana. So you're going to be a part of the marijuana industry. What? I know, yeah. Not educational vouchers, not college loans or something like that. No, none of that stuff. Marijuana. So here's the thing no, I'm not done. I'm coming back. Barack Obama came out, and this was a week ago, and he basically said, why are you thinking, black man? Why are you thinking anyways at all? You should just be voting for us because I said so. Don't ask questions. Just get on the plantation and vote. So I'm offended by Barack Obama. I'm offended by Kamala Harris, by what they think is important to black Americans. Why don't they tell black Americans, hey, guess what we're going to do? We're also going to get you some menthol cigarettes and some Cavassier. Might as well say the same thing. We'll get you a pack of Cools and maybe some, some Cavassier. And along with that pot, we want you to smoke. This reminds me of what happened to the Indians, the American Indians, early in American history, where settlers would come by and they would see a piece of land that they wanted, and they would say, hey, here's some beads. I'll give you some beads for all that tract of land. Yeah, no, you don't need that. It's just dirt. Here's some beads. Yeah, and then eventually, you know what that led to, right? It led to reservations, right? They're saying the same thing to black folks now. They're saying, you are so stupid that you're going to vote for us for a pack of Cools and some weed and some Cavassier. When black folks, by and large, have the same needs, have the same wants, have the same desires as any other American. And how offensive it is that the Democrat Party would even allow that to be even ushered out there. But that tells you what they think about blacks in America. That Americans are so black Americans are so stupid that they would sell their sacred vote for a pack of Cools and maybe a shot of Cavassier. because that's how stupid black folks are in the eyes of the Democrat Party. And here's the crazy thing about it once again, is you will have black folks who will still vote based upon that. That's the crazy thing about it. So they're courting the male vote, and I'm kidding you not, you guys. You can go ahead and read their website. That's what they're trying to offer Black Americans: a pack of cools and maybe some marijuana. Get in on the marijuana industry. One of the things that has probably hurt the black community more than anything else is marijuana, the introduction of marijuana, and so I guess they think that's a great thing that they can go ahead and offer black folks more marijuana. Yeah, why not? It's just the way it is. In just a sec, we're going to do one more story, and then we're going to get to this article that I think is just so important. Many of you know who Benjamin Netanyahu is. Benjamin Netanyahu is the leader of Israel, and so over the last few weeks, the IDF. The Israel Defense Forces have been really very active, protecting the homeland, protecting Jewish settlers, and they've been killing Hamas, Hezbollah leaders right and left, ending what they believe and what we know to be the truth, to be the enemy of the Jewish state. Hezbollah, Hamas, Iran, all these leaders in the Middle East have been going after Israel with impunity, sending rockets over into Israel, and Israel said, we're done messing around with you guys. And a couple of weeks ago, they had what they called the military analysts are saying that this is probably one of the most prolific and ingenious pieces of military might that we've ever seen. And it wasn't like a nuclear thing. What they did is they infiltrated the pipeline that supplied all of the beepers, pagers to Hezbollah leaders. And on one day, they said, okay, everybody, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. They send a message to all these Hezbollah leaders, and the phones and the beepers exploded. Yes, exploded in the ears, in the face, and killed like 13 different Hezbollah leaders. And so, and then they followed that up by having a strike on the leader of somebody who they believe was the mastermind behind the October 7th bombing, which was about a year ago, that killed 1,200 Israelis, and they took 125 hostages, many of whom that are still in captivity. So Iran was not happy about this, and Iran said that they're going to strike back at Israel. And so what they do? So this story is from SRN News, and it said a drone targets Israeli Prime Minister his home while strikes in Gaza kill more than 50. This is from Jerusalem. This is an AP story. It says Israel's government said a drone targeted Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's house Saturday with no casualties, as fighting with Lebanese or Lebanon-based Hezbollah and Gaza-based Hamas showed no pause after the killing of the Hamas mastermind of last year's October 7th attack. Israel's military said dozens of projectiles were launched from Lebanon a day after Hezbollah announced a new phase of fighting. Netanyahu's office said the drone targeted his house. Can you believe this? In the Mediterranean coastal town of Caesarea. Neither he nor his wife were there. It wasn't clear if the house was hit. So now we've got these folks, we've got, these Lebanese, these Iranian-backed fighters shooting not just at civilians, okay, because they know they're cowards, they'll do that, but they actually went after the Prime Minister of Israel. Can you imagine that, folks? Can you imagine if that happened here in America, where you've got these people who go after one of our presidents? Now, the crazy thing about it is there is a contract out on President Donald Trump by Iran. These are acts of war, folks. not just little things. These are acts of war. And we cannot stand by and just watch this. We need to pray. First and foremost, we need to pray. We need to pray that God would, affect a change in the lives of these people, because this is craziness. We know that we live in the final days. We know we're there because we see these wars and rumors of wars. There's an increase in violence and people hating people, and the left becoming the right and the right becoming the left, and up being down and down being up. But now we see the leader of Israel being targeted for assassination by drone strikes. And this is the crazy part about it. So we want to pray for Israel. We want to pray for President Netanyahu's family, and what's going to happen next, because this is not going to end. This is going to get worse. And we cannot stand by idly and watch this. We'll be back in just a second, folks. We're going to take a real quick commercial break. We'll be back in just a second with more of Christian American Magazine. I'm your host, Sherman Ray. We'll be back in just a second. All right, we are back, folks. This is Sherman Ray, and this is Christian American Magazine. I hope you're all enjoying the show so far. As I said, we are in this next segment. We've got a what I'm going to tell you, folks. This is probably one of the most, I don't know how to describe this. So let me give you a setup for this. Kamala Harris. Many of us know that she's running for president of the United States, but there's been this underground groundswell of a chatter that has said that she is not black. Now, she has come out with a book, her autobiography, where she shows this picture of a woman by the name of Beryl, and she says that this is her paternal grandmother in Jamaica. Many of you know that Kamala Harris's mom is Hindu. Her dad is Jamaican, but he's Hindu. And we did this, last week, is that Judge Joe Brown came on. He talked about how he knew Kamala Harris's father, and that he was not black. He is Hindu and Irish, is what he is. And so, Kamala Harris is touting the fact, and not so much anymore, not so much anymore, but she's touting the fact that she's black, that people come by to have her greens that she makes in a bathtub and stuff like that. Well, a little while ago, Janet Jackson happened to make mention of the fact that she didn't think that Kamala Harris was black either, and she got lambasted by those on the left. I mean, people came after her like she wasn't a sister no more, and so she withdrew those statements, not having any direct knowledge of whether or not she was going by hearsay. Well, Candace Owens, many of you know Candace Owens is. She's a lightning rod, just a wonderful woman of God, and also a investigative, phenom. She took up the cause. She took umbrage with the fact that Janet Jackson was being vilified on something that many people believe was true. That Kamala Harris is not black, that she is probably Hindu, but that she's playing the black community. So Candace Owens went on a one-woman crusade to find out who Kamala Harris is. Because Kamala Harris has a book that she has an autobiography. She has a picture of her black family. She's touting them. She's got them in Harlem. She's got them here. She's got her little nappy hair. She's growing up, making collard greens, all this other stuff. And the picture of a woman, black woman by the name of Beryl, who she says is in Jamaica, and when she was there one time, she took a picture with her. Candace Owens saw this picture of her and says, I don't think so. There's something wrong about this, because that woman, one, doesn't look anything like you. She's a dark skin. Now, Beryl is dark as me. She's darker than me. She looks more like my family than she does Kamala Harris's family. She looks a lot like my family, as a matter of fact. So, Kamala Harris, Candace Owens, as I said, went on a one-woman search to find out who Kamala Harris is. And some of the things she found out were phenomenal. We've been following her for a number of weeks now, and we've been reporting on, updating you on what we have found out that she has found out. And this latest thing was incredible. So I'm going to tell you, once again, I'm just going to set this up. Now, at this point, Candace Owens has found out who Kamala Harris's uncle is, who her dad is, who any number one of her relatives were, but there was still this question of who her grandmother is. Who is this Beryl person? Who is this woman who's in her book? And I'll try to see if I can find the picture here in just a minute. But who is this woman who looks like in this picture? Now I'm going to preface this by saying one time before, is that Kamala Harris, in her own words, says that her family were slave owners. Somewhere along the line, her great-great-grandfather was a slave owner in Jamaica. And what Candace Owens says is that she believes that this woman in this picture is not her grandmother, Beryl, but that she's one of the help because of the way she's standing next to you. I don't know how many of you got grandkids. I've got 10 grandkids, and every time I'm around them, it's like here. it's like here. We're hugging on them. This woman in this picture wasn't that. It was more like, I got to stand here with this woman. Okay? Just wasn't there. So now let's fast forward now. So now Candace Owens has been reaching out. There's a lady by the name of Lady C in Jamaica. She's a podcaster, older lady, does a lot of history, does a lot of British history, that kind of stuff. She has a podcast, and she heard about Candace Owens' investigation into Kamala Harris, and she's a skeptic. She goes, no, I don't believe it. So I'm going to put out my own feelers, and I'm going to see what I can dig up on Kamala Harris. Yes, I know some of you are already thinking, where are we going with this? Oh, yeah. She found a lady who not only knew Kamala Harris's family, but she knew who Beryl was. She knew who Beryl was when she was a little girl. The last time she saw her, and we've got a fairly lengthy video here, but you're going to hear it in her own words. Her name is Dorothy. You're going to hear it in her own words. So I'm going to try to get this to start. I hope that it starts the way it is. And you'll see this whole thing. I hope you're able to see it. Stick around. This is fairly lengthy. And there's the clip of Lady C, Dorothy, talking about Kamala Harris's grandma Beryl, and she describes who she is. Okay, ready, guys? Here we go. Go.
Laura, and from me, we have a special guest with us today, Dorothy Otti, who is an old friend of mine. She's Jamaican, and she used to know Miss Beryl very well. They grew up in the same village.
Well, I grew up in the village where Miss Beryl lived. She was a lot older than me, of course.
Well,
Miss Beryl was the grandmother of Vice President Kamala Harris.
Yes.
And she was just the most delightful lady. I have such fond memories of her. Excuse me. So there's a sweet that you have in Jamaica as a child, or grown-ups eat this sweet that's made from coconuts and caramelized sugar, and it's called a buster. Have you ever had?
Darling, in my day it was called Bustamante Backbone.
Okay, so it was called a buster. And Miss Beryl had a shop. And in the mornings, my Uncle Cecil would take me by the hand. We'd go up the road for a walk. And on the way, everyone that goes past, it would be, "Good morning, Mas Cecil." And "How are you, Miss Dar?" And by the time we got to Miss Beryl's shop, she would either offer me a buster or this other delicious sweet called a paradise plum.
Yes, I remember paradise.
Yeah,
plums.
but Miss Beryl, she was just so lovely. We would have these conversations as a little girl whenever I went past with Uncle Cecil, and it was always, how are you doing with your books? Are you reading? Are you learning your times table? Of course, she was a businesswoman, so she was very good at things like mathematics, of course. And she was, looking back now, you could see she was a trailblazer. Because the shop that she had, she actually built it herself. So we lived in a village, and her shop was the only what you would call an upstairs, downstairs house. All the other houses were like bungalows on one level with gardens and stuff. I remember in our garden, we had gladiolas. And Grandma, who is not my actual grandmother, she was actually a cousin of ours, but we called her Grandma. And my real grandmother, my mother's mother, we called Mama. But Grandma and Grandma, by the way, my dear, was born in 1879. So by the time I came along, she was a fairly old lady. I remember that she had never driven in a car. But she had been in a horse and carriage. And whenever anyone came up the drive and the car was parked there, she would like to just go and sit in the car. But she'd say, whatever you do, don't move. I don't like when it moves. But it was just the most, fascinating place as a child growing up. And we sorry.
Go on.
Yeah.
So your grandmother,
yes,
she was born in 1870 what?
79.
79.
Yeah.
Was she a contemporary of Miss Beryl?
No, she was a lot older than Miss Beryl. So she was one of the oldest people that lived in the village. Here we would call it a village. And everybody called her, would go past, and they would say, good morning, Grandma. And then of course my mother across the road, my real grandmother, who was Mama. But it was a really lovely life. We did things such as it was a life where you got up, you had your bath, you got dressed, and you had breakfast.
So this lady's going to be telling a little bit more of the story. We're going to fast forward just a little bit because she does start rambling here a little bit. But stick around, folks. There's some really cool stuff here. Let's continue on with the conversation. This is Dorothy and Lady C talking about Kamala Harris and this lady who knew her when she was a child. Here we go.
And, she would read all the stories, and the farmers on their way to their fields and stuff would stop by to say good morning, and she would, read them bits of the news, and then they would bid her goodbye and go off for the day.
How many, was it a village or was it a hamlet? How many people would have been in it? How many houses? How many residents?
So at one time, everyone that lived there, it was a village. There was probably about 80 or 90 people. But at one time, everyone that lived there was a relative of mine.
Really?
Yes.
What about Miss Beryl?
So this would have been before people such as Miss Beryl moved there. But before that, everyone who lived there, and even as a child growing up, most of the residents were connected in some way on my mother's father's side, my grandfather's side, where they were all related. But Miss Beryl, my darling, also had a son. He was called Kenneth, and Kenneth had a motorbike, the equivalent of what we would now call a Harley Davidson. And of course, So at the time, I would have been no more than 4 or 5. I'm not interested in what make your bike is. And he would put me on the front of the bike, you know, whenever I came past.
Now, this Kenneth guy that she's describing was another child of Miss Beryl. And so she's describing this conversation this relationship she had with him. She's a little girl, and he's much older. He's good looking. The reason why this is so important, folks, is that this person was spoken of, that he was part of the research that Candace Owens had, but that nobody knew about. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward just a little bit. So it was part of the research that Candace Owens had, and no one knew about this yet. So we're going to continue on here. Here we go.
I'm older, and I can spot people by their skin coloring, etc. For me, I would say there was something.
All right, I'm going to back this up just a hair, because we did miss a piece that will tell you something that I think you're going to need to hear. Okay, here we go.
Harris on the box. And I sit up straight and I think, my God, she looks so much like Miss Beryl. Her facial features, the only thing is Miss Beryl was much smaller in stature, but
Well, okay, if Miss Beryl, because Kamala is very fair-skinned.
Right.
Was Beryl fair-skinned?
yes, she was.
She was.
She was. She was fair-skinned.
She was. Okay.
Yes, she was very fair-skinned
Oh,
with black hair.
really?
Yes.
Okay.
So she was so fair-skinned that now that I'm older and I can spot people by their skin coloring, etc., for me, I would say there was something Irish there.
How interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say somewhere along the line she would have had ancestors that were Irish. Yes.
Actually, can I show you a photograph
Of course.
of an old lady?
Yes.
And some people speculate
Yeah.
that this is Miss Beryl.
Right.
So, sorry, bear
That's
with me.
okay.
I am so untechnological.
Okay.
It's just pathetic.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. Nah, that's not Miss Beryl.
That's not Miss Beryl.
That's definitely not Miss Beryl.
Okay.
That's not Miss Beryl.
So,
And-
let me just show you.
Yeah.
So,
That is not Miss Beryl.
That's not Miss Beryl.
Definitely not Miss Beryl.
okay.
And I know what she looks like. I couldn't have been in a dream, and she definitely did not look like that.
There's another person, but could that be Miss Beryl?
No, that's not
That's
Miss
not Miss Beryl
That's not
either.
Miss Beryl either.
Okay.
Don't know who that is.
Okay. So, you don't have photographs of Miss
I
Beryl?
don't have photographs.
Well, of course, in those days, nobody took photographs.
That's right.
Photographs are very recent.
So we're going to stop for there just a second, folks. And the reason why we're stopping this is because, once again, these two women, Lady C is the blonde-haired one. The other lady, her name is Dorothy, and she knew Kamala Harris's grandmother when she was a kid. Lady C just showed her a picture of the picture that she knows to be the one that's in the book that Kamala Harris was touting around, saying that this is my grandma. Now, the lady that's in the book is as dark as Dorothy, and Dorothy says, that's not her. As a matter of fact, if you saw the picture, and once again, we'll try to get this up to you, is the picture that is in Kamala Harris's book is of a dark-skinned Jamaican lady. Dorothy saw the picture, and she goes, nah, that's not her. I mean, you heard her how quickly she was saying this. Later on in the video, you'll actually hear Lady C talk about this, but right now, she's verifying that the pictures that you see that were in Kamala Harris's book are not her relatives, because she knows who the relatives are. We're going to watch just a little bit more, and then we're going to fast forward just a little bit, because I want to get you back to the reaction of Lady C on this. But let's continue on. Here we go.
That's right. But also, when I would have been about 25, 26, my aunt moved back to Jamaica, and she lived in my uncle's house, my Uncle Cecil's house. And by then, Miss Beryl no longer had the shop. She built the house next door to my uncle's house. So the last time I saw Miss Beryl was when my late partner was alive. So I would have been in my...
Tim?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
So when did Timothy die?
So Timothy died 2000.
2000.
Yeah.
So was Miss Beryl alive in 2000?
So she was alive in the 90s.
In the 90s.
Which was when I Tim and I were together. So
No.
she was definitely alive in the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could see Lady C going, oh my gosh. It wasn't as though this woman saw this person when she was a little child. You know, kids can see things and they're going, oh, and they don't have a good recall. This lady now was 25 years old, went back to Jamaica, saw Miss Beryl, and so she knew what now she's saying, oh, wow, now that I know what ethnicity they might be, that this lady she probably was Irish. Because now she's older and she's looking at her. She didn't go from dark to light. She was always that color. So she says, no, something else is wrong here. Once again, I'm gonna go play through. And so here's the thing about it. Miss Lady C, the blonde haired lady on here, she is coming into this whole conversation thinking that she is going to prove Candace Owens wrong. She's going to prove that Candace Owens is full of crap. And so she brings this woman on who knows her, and now she's going, oh my goodness, she's right. Oh my gosh, she's right. This guy. So I'm going to fast forward this, guys. I know there's so much more in here. There really is. I know Candace Owens did a great job. Thank you so much, Candace Owens, for doing this. I'm going to fast forward just a little bit because there is actually, I want to get to the reaction of Miss Dorothy or Miss Lady C as now she's starting to mull through this. So I know the video on this looks really terrible, folks, but pardon me for that because it was so much. There's so much on here that I'm going to just fast forward through this, and we're going to see what her reaction is. Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know about you, but I have to tell you, upon reflection, I am absolutely gobsmacked by the fact that Dorothy said that the Miss Beryl she knew, and remember, she lived beside her for much of her life, her youth, I should say, and she said she was fair-skinned, and I asked her in the Jamaican vernacular for her colour, and she said brown, which meant not white and definitely not black. And when I showed her the photograph of Miss Beryl that Kamala posted as, well, I tell you what, I'll post that as well as the photograph, because I showed her just Miss Beryl. I cropped Kamala out of the photograph and I showed it on this phone, and then I turned it around to show it to the camera, and when I looked at it later I realized that it wasn't really visible. I suppose it must be if you sort of zero in closely, but I'm not very technological. So I'm going to be asking Sean to post the photograph of Miss Beryl that I cropped Kamala out of, that comes from Kamala's autobiography, where she And then I show a photograph of Vioris Lawrence, who then married Kamala's grandfather, and she didn't recognize Vioris as being Miss Beryl. In fact, she didn't recognize Vioris at all. And then I'll show the photograph of Beryl, Miss Beryl, with Kamala, where Kamala boldly asserts that that is her paternal grandmother, when it clearly isn't. Now, this raises such questions, and I don't understand, says I, trying to avoid getting sucked into the toxicity of American politics. But actually, I do understand. I think Kamala discovered that her little bit of black blood would play very well with the black electorate in America. I mean, she certainly had an example, because Barack Obama, who was brought up by purely white parent and grandparents and sent to the finest schools because they were all very prosperous, and didn't have a black experience either in Indonesia or Hawaii. He was raised primarily in Indonesia, and he only, shall we say, discovered being black when he entered politics. Until then, he was as he ought to have been, colorless. Now, I have a great deal of respect for Barack Obama's dignity and his gracious presentation, but I understand from Black Americans that if you dig more deeply, his identification with Black America is actually an artificial construct. And it would appear that it worked for him to become black. I mean, there's no doubt Michelle Obama is black. And there's no doubt that his children are primarily black. But he is half black. He's what used to be called a mulatto, a racial categorization that was extremely accurate and descriptive. He's not black. And Kamala has even less black in her than Barack Obama, but obviously she has been politically ambitious pretty much most of her adult life, and I'm not criticizing her for that. I'm just making a statement of fact. And she did go to Black University, but I cannot believe that her Indian mother, because the Indians are very proud of their heritage, would have been bringing her two daughters up to be black when the least of their racial identity was sub-Saharan African, and the most was Indian. So I think that again is a political ploy. Well, it's not up to me as a foreigner to really go too deeply into whether I would approve or disapprove of somebody who makes such use of really what in Jamaica they used to call her touch of the tar brush, because that was the expression that they used to use in Jamaica. And she is on her father's side Jamaican, and it's perfectly valid to use Jamaican terms in this instance.
once again, I'm sorry about the microphone issue there. Let's back out of this just 1 second. As you saw, Lady C had an interview with a lady by the name of Dorothy. Dorothy knew Kamala Harris's grandmother when she was growing up. And categorically, she saw the picture of a person that is purported to be Kamala Harris's grandmother, and she said, that's not her. That's just not her. That Kamala Harris's grandmother is Irish, white. She might have Hindu in her, something like that, but she is not a black person. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, though, has been, when she first started running for office, said, oh yeah, I'm a sister. What's up? What's up? What's up? You know, she went out with black guys. She ended up marrying a white guy, but she was going out with black folks, hanging out with black folks all that she could. And she, one time she go, oh, people come from miles around to get my collard greens. Because I made one time I made them so much, and I put it in my, I had to put it in my bathtub, and here's the thing about it, is the Democrats used that. Kamala Harris used that to get black folks to vote for her. And the darker she is, guess what? She wanted to try to get the same response, the same energy that Barack Obama had when he went and won the presidential nomination, became president of the United States, and then repeated. Because the energy was so high for the black community, because we wanted to see rightfully a person of color, win. But black men are going, I don't think so. This story needs to be spread far and wide, folks. Kamala Harris is not black. She has never been black, and she's been playing the black community. And if she would do something like this to win an election, what else would she do? What else has she done to get where she's at in life? She slept with Willie Brown. She slept with this person. She slept with that person to get to where she's at. She sold her soul, and now she's trying to sell. Now she's trying to pull the wool over the eyes of the black community. I didn't say this, folks. This lady who just did this podcast had somebody on who said that. Don't shoot me, folks. I am just the messenger. I've been following the story for a couple of weeks now, and as Candace Owens has brought masterfully, she found out who her uncle was. She found out who her kinfolks were. In her book, in her own words, Kamala Harris is saying that she is black, and she is not black. And black America should be upset. This is a person with no soul. Kamala Harris needs to come out and tell the world that I am not black, I am Hindu, and that's fine. Nobody. Here's the thing about it. Nobody cares if you're Hindu. Nobody cares if you're Japanese. Nobody cares if you're French. Nobody cares any of that stuff. As long as you're born in America, you can run to be the president of the United States. And if you're qualified and people vote for you, you should become the president of the United States. But you're a liar. That's what the problem is. You're a liar. You have no soul. You have no conscience. You have no morals. You have no. All you're caring about is winning. That's all you care about. Judge Joe Brown said it very, very appropriately. He says there's something about a prosecutor that he doesn't like, especially a career prosecuting attorney. All they care about is winning. They don't care how they do it. They don't care who gets hurt. They're just about winning. And Kamala Harris, you are that prosecuting attorney to a T. You would stand up in front of people and you would lie to them to their face just to win. And in this case, what Lady C said here, she says, I'm gobsmacked. My mom used to say that. I'm Jamaican. My mom used to say, I'm gobsmacked. She's beyond words. What words can describe somebody like this? Black America should be infuriated. White America should be infuriated. Democrats should be infuriated. Republicans surely should be infuriated. No one should be happy about this. No one's happy about this. I wish I did not have to bring this story to you guys. I wish I didn't have to be the one to say Kamala Harris is a fraud, but she is. And it's not because I'm saying it. It's because this video is proof. The evidence is overwhelming. And you know what else? If she is who she says she is, if she's black, if she is an African American, okay, even an eighth of a drop of blood is better than nothing, right? Then she needs to prove it. She needs to prove who she is. Okay, saying you're a Jamaican means nothing. I'm Jamaican. I wasn't born there. There are Indian Jamaicans. There are Chinese Jamaicans. Jamaica is not an ethnicity. Jamaica is an island. It's like saying you're born in Puerto Rico. I'm Puerto Rican. Okay, but you're obviously Irish. Okay, it's your lineage. And Kamala Harris, from all we can tell, excuse me, your lineage is Indian. It's Hindu. It's Irish. It's not black. You might be dark. You might be like as far as Judge Joe Brown says, you might be swarthy. Okay, which means you might have a dark cast to you. Okay, which means that you're not even in some Indian terms you're just kind of a dark skinned Indian. Okay, but stand up for who you are. Be happy who you are. We don't care who you are. All we care about is who you say you are, and if you're lying about it, then we got a problem. We got a real big problem because that means you're immoral. Okay, it means you have no ethics, and you cannot become the president who represents the freest country on this planet by being somebody who's just a liar, just a rank old liar. We've just got a couple more minutes left, folks. We'll be back in just a second with more of the show. This is Sherman Ray. This is Christian American Magazine. We'll be back in just a second. We are back, folks. This is Sherman Ray, and this is Christian American Magazine. I want to thank you all for being a part of the broadcast. In our last segment, we opened up a can of worms, and I'm very excited about this, folks. I really am, because you know what? I want to congratulate Candace Owens for making everybody aware of probably the biggest story of our lifetime. It really is. It's a very big story. We caught on to this a couple of weeks ago, and we started printing as we were launching this broadcast. And we thought that this was noteworthy also, too. And we were all just kind of going, oh, please, Lord, let this not be true. Let this not be true, please. We don't want another, we don't want to see somebody be proven that they're as evil as they are. We want to see just rumors and let them go by, okay? But when we saw this, we went, oh, my gosh, this is worse than we ever thought imaginable. And so hopefully, if you didn't see it, go ahead and go back to our last segment and you will actually be able to get it. Let's move forward, folks. President Trump, in a recent article, this one is by SRN News, is President Trump is making inroads with religious groups other than evangelicals. A new poll finds the former president leads his Democrat challenger amongst Catholic voters in key battleground states. The National Catholic Register survey indicates Catholics prefer Mr. Trump in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Those are called battleground states. Other polls demonstrate that Jewish voters who have been reliably Democrat for decades, I don't know why, are now beginning to support Mr. Trump, primarily because he has been friendly to Israel. Now, here's the thing about, many of you know this, is President Trump did something that no other president in history ever did. President Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem. He moved the Jewish embassy to Jerusalem, recognizing Jerusalem as the center of the world for Israel. And of course, it set off a firestorm, but he didn't care. He said, look, we support Israel. Republicans have always supported Israel, and especially President Trump. So why would Israelis not support President Trump? We have no idea. But it looks like President Trump is actually doing so much more, and he's making more inroads into groups outside of evangelicals. Evangelicals overwhelmingly vote for President Trump, which is very, very cool. I got time for one more story? Yeah, I got time for one more story. This story is about Britain, and so this is kind of disturbing, and I'm glad that we were able to get this story also. This story is it's entitled "Britain Has Outlawed Prayer." A man, at least outside abortion clinics. SRN News. A man has been found guilty by a court in Dorset of praying silently. What? Of praying silently outside of a clinic because he was inside the buffer zone that was recently established by the government. So I'm going to read this again because I know some of you are going, you probably, it went right by you. A man is found guilty by a court in Dorset of praying silently. How did they know he was praying? If he was praying silently, how did they know he was praying? Was there like little crosses, around his head and stuff like that? Or was he, how did they know he wasn't sleeping? He was praying silently outside of a clinic because he was inside the buffer zone. Okay. And so he was praying outside silently, and because he was inside the buffer zone that was recently established by the government. So the government is basically in Britain protecting abortion clinics. The court found Adam Smith Connor guilty of disapproval of abortion. Oh my gosh. He will not be sentenced unless he violates the law again. Pro-life and free speech critics say the United Kingdom has now essentially outlawed prayer and belief, at least in certain locations. You guys, we got to pray. We've got to pray because basically what they said was that we don't even want you thinking about prayer. We don't want you even thinking about God. We don't want you thinking about him, God. We definitely don't want you even mentioning God in places where we don't think that it's appropriate. What has happened to this world? The word talks about that there's going to come a time when men are going to be lovers of self and not lovers of God. That there's going to come a time when you won't be able to buy and sell lest you have a mark. There's going to come a time when man is going to show how evil he can be. We are living in those times right now. How in the name of all that is good can the country that authorized the King James version of the Bible, that is in every household in America probably, how can they now turn their back on God and say you can't pray to the God that we helped spread around the world? The King James version of the Bible, folks, guess what? It was the authorized version of the Bible that was spread among all the peoples. And now Britain has said, we're finding a man guilty because he's praying. This is how far this country's gone. And guess what, folks? If you think it can't happen in America, you're wrong. You're wrong. And we need to pray about this. We really need to get on our hands and knees and say, Lord God, make it stop, Lord God. Come, Lord Jesus, come. Because we're living in very dangerous times. Wow. Folks, this has been Sherman Ray. This has been the Christian American Magazine. I want to thank you all for being a part of the broadcast today. And I want to once again encourage you to pray. Pray for our country. Pray for Jesus. Pray that Jesus will come back soon, because I don't know how much more the world can take of this before evil is so rampant that people start dying. I don't know. I'm done. I got to end. You guys, I want to thank you once again for being a part of the broadcast. We'll be back again next week. Check out the show, folks. Check out our show page. Check us out on godstream.org. Just go ahead and Google search us in when you get on the page. That's godstream.org. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, but mainly on godstream.org. We will see you again next week for more Christian American Magazine. Bye-bye.